Thank you. Governor. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Lieutenant Governor Guadagno, Madam Speaker, Mr. President, members of our congressional delegation, members of the Supreme Court, members of our legislature, and fellow New Jerseyans. Since George Washington delivered the first State of the Union in New York City on this day in 1790, it has been the tradition of executive leaders to report on the condition of the nation and the state at the beginning of a legislative year. And so today it is my honor and pleasure to give you this report on the state of our state. 1 year ago, we were scheduled to gather on this second Tuesday in January when our friend and colleague, Alex DeCroce, passed suddenly the night before, causing us to delay this report. I miss Alex. I miss his hard work. I miss his kind spirit. And I think of him often in this job. I'm so pleased to see his wife, Betty Lou, here in this chamber as a duly elected member of the Assembly. She continues his hard work and does honor to his memory. Thank you, Betty Lou. Just 3 months ago, we were proceeding normally with our lives, getting ready for a national election and the holidays to follow. Then Sandy hit. Sandy was the worst storm to strike New Jersey in our history. 346,000 homes were damaged or destroyed. Nearly 7 million people and over 1,000 schools were without power. 116,000 New Jerseyans were evacuated or displaced from their homes. 41,000 families are still displaced from their homes today. Sandy may have damaged our homes and our infrastructure, but it did not destroy our spirit. The people of New Jersey have come together as never before, across party lines, across ideological lines, across ages and races and background, from all parts of our state, even from out of state. Everyone has come together. So today, let me start this address with a set of thank yous from me on behalf of the people of this great state. First, I want to thank the brave first responders, the National Guard, and emergency management experts from around this state who prepared us for this storm and kept us safe in its aftermath. I want to thank the members of this legislature for their cooperation in answering Sandy's challenges and for being by my side as I toured so many of the devastated areas of our state. Thank you, members of the legislature, for standing together for the people of New Jersey. I want to thank the Community Food Bank of New Jersey, the Southern Baptists, the Salvation Army, and the American Red Cross, who helped us deliver over 1 million pounds of food and over 5 million meals and snacks to families who needed them. They are part of a network of organizations, a family really, who make life better in New Jersey every day, and they really came through when times were the toughest. Thank you to them. I want to thank the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, the State Chamber of Commerce, the Commerce and Industry Association of New Jersey, and the National Federation of Independent Businesses for keeping us in touch with the needs of small businesses in the wake of the storm, so that New Jersey can help get these businesses back on their feet as soon as possible and working again for the people of this state. Thank you to those great organizations. I want to thank the 17,000 out-of-state utility workers who came to New Jersey from all over America. You saw them in their trucks, on your streets, and they joined with 10,000 of our own to get power restored as quickly as possible so that within 9 days of this horrific storm, electric power had been restored to 90% of New Jersey's customers. Let me thank all of the governors, Republicans and Democrats from across America who sent their utility workers here, and let me thank those utility workers who worked 18 hours a day, 7 days a week to make sure that New Jersey got back to normal. I want to thank the members of my cabinet and my senior staff who, for days before the storm and weeks after it, put their own personal losses aside and worked 18 hours a day and slept very little. They led their departments and their dedicated colleagues in putting the safety and well-being of others ahead of their own. New Jersey and I were both well served by these great group of public servants. Thank you all. To everyone who opened their homes, who assisted senior citizens, who fed their neighbors, who counseled the grief-stricken or pitched in to clear debris, remove sand, or to get a school back opened, I say thank you to all of you. See, you've defined New Jersey as a community, one which, when faced with adversity, rolls up its sleeves, gets back to work, and in word and deed shows that New Jerseyans never, ever give up. Now, make no mistake about it. We will be back, and we'll be back stronger than ever. The spirit of New Jersey, our community, was shown in the days immediately after the storm. In Seabright, Mary Pat was by the side of one small businessman at the moment when he was allowed to return to his business and see for the very first time what Sandy had done to his restaurant. As the plywood was pulled off of the building, allowing him to see for the very first time the complete destruction of his means of earning a living for himself and his family, he turned to Mary Pat and said without hesitation, "Don't worry, we're going to build this back better than it was." His words were forceful, they were optimistic, and they were emblematic, capturing the indomitable spirit of this great state. And he was just one example of how New Jersey and its citizens were showing our whole country how to bravely and resolutely deal with a crisis. Citizens like Frank Smith, Jr., the volunteer chief of the Moonachie First Aid Squad, his home was destroyed during the storm. Then his headquarters were destroyed during the storm. After securing the safety of his 3 young children, he did not take himself to higher ground. No. He led his team through fires and floodwaters, through buildings and trailer parks, and he saved over 2,000 lives that night. Moonachie citizens Moonachie citizens were saved because he put them first, ahead of himself. Frank is here with us in the chamber. Please stand up, Frank, and let us thank you for your bravery. In Toms River, Marcia Hedgepeth, an emergency room technician, had the day off when Sandy hit her hometown. Now, she could have gotten herself to safety and forgotten about her colleagues at the community medical center and, most importantly, her patients. Instead, facing several feet of water on her flooded street, she swam. She swam to higher ground. Then she hitchhiked with a utility worker from Michigan and got to the hospital and put in a 12-hour shift treating her fellow citizens who were harmed by the storm, swimming through floodwaters to save lives. Marcia is here. Please stand up and let us thank you for setting such a great example. In Brick, Tracy Keelan and Jay Gayweiler watched as the floodwaters consumed their town. Concerned about Jay's father, they tried to reach him but could not. Not content to wait, they put on their wetsuits, got in their rowboat, and went and rescued Jay's dad. That'd be a great story if it ended there, but it's just the beginning. See, in the process, they saw dozens of others stranded in their homes in Brick. So after they got Jay's father to safety, they turned back around and one by one saved more than 50 of Jay's father's neighbors along with their pets. Then, for those they rescued who had no place to go, they housed them as well. Now, they admitted they didn't know these neighbors that well before the storm, but they didn't care. They put extending a helping hand in a crisis ahead of social comfort. Tracy and Jay are with us as well. I want to thank them for saving lives and making a difference. Tracy and Jay. See, New Jerseyans are among the toughest, grittiest, and most generous people in America. These citizens are just a small example of that simple truth. Our pride in our state in our moment of loss and challenge is reflected in the eyes of these extraordinary people. You see, some things are above politics. Sandy was and is one of those things. See, these folks stand for the truth of that statement. Now, glad we have our congressional delegation here, and I thank them for being here. And we look forward to what we hope will be quick congressional action on a full, clean Sandy aid bill now, next week, and to enactment by the President. We, as a state, have waited 72 days, 7 times longer than the victims of Hurricane Katrina waited. And one thing I hope everyone in America now clearly understands: New Jersey, both Republicans and Democrats, will never stand silent when our citizens are being shortchanged. The people of New Jersey are in need, and not from their own actions, but from an act of God that delivered a natural, human, and financial disaster. And let me say, on behalf of all New Jerseyans, that we're thankful to the people of the United States, because I know they will honor the tradition of providing relief. You see, we have stood with the citizens of Florida and Alabama, Mississippi and Louisiana, Iowa and Vermont, California and Missouri in their times of need. Now I trust they will stand with us. So make no mistake, New Jersey's spirit has never been stronger, our resolve never more firm, our unity never more obvious. Let there also be no mistake, much work still lies ahead. Damage that comes only once in a century will take, in some cases, years to repair. But here are some of what we have done already. We've created a cabinet-level position to coordinate the state's efforts across every agency. Mark Verzan is here today, and he is ready to work with you on this restoration effort. We've requested the federal government to pay 100% of the costs of the significant debris removal that we require, and have already received $18 million for municipalities for that task. We have secured $20 million from the Federal Highway Administration for emergency repair of our roads, bridges, and tunnels, a down payment on the major infrastructure task ahead. We have directed our Department of Environmental Protection to streamline approvals for restoring critical infrastructure. We have overseen the removal already of over 2.5 million cubic yards of debris. 17 towns have already completed debris removal. Over 1,000 trucks are working daily to continue debris removal, with 26 more towns rapidly moving towards completion. We are now removing debris from our waterways. Now, New Jerseyans need to know this. Nearly 1,400 vessels were either sunken or abandoned in our waterways during Sandy. 1,400. In Maniloking alone, 58 buildings and 8 cars were washed into Barnegat Bay. Now, we'll remove this debris, and we will dredge the bay to reduce the risk of flooding and to improve the health of the bay. And we'll do it beginning this week, the very same week that this administration furthers its commitment to the health of Barnegat Bay by implementing the toughest fertilizer law in America. We've helped get temporary rental assistance for 41,000 displaced New Jersey families, and where necessary, secured transitional shelters in the meantime in hotels or motels or even in Fort Monmouth. We've worked with the Small Business Administration to secure nearly $189 million in loans for thousands of home and small business owners. And through our New Jersey Economic Development Authority, we have provided lines of credit for businesses awaiting insurance reimbursement, grants for job training, and benefits for displaced workers. Our New Jersey Department of Transportation has been one of the busiest agencies. They've removed over 4,400 truckloads of debris just from state and local roads. And they're in the midst of cleaning another 4,300 truckloads of sand to restore and replenish our beaches. Our Department of Education has worked night and day to get schools reopened as quickly as possible. And where that wasn't possible, to get them restored by the next school year, all while maintaining our commitment to a full 180-day school year of education for all of New Jersey's children. Now, Executive Order 107 makes sure that when insurance payments do come, they are not compromised by excessive deductibles, and it will ensure that our citizens maximize their reimbursements from their insurance companies. And while there are dozens of other examples, of the never-quit attitude of this administration and our citizens, there is none better than the miracle of Route 35 in Maniloking. At the Maniloking Bridge, Route 35 had been completely washed away by Sandy. I stood at the spot where the Atlantic Ocean flowed into the bay, where Route 35 had once carried thousands of cars a day to vacations down the shore. Within days, Commissioner Jim Simpson, the Department of Transportation, and our private sector partners had a temporary road built to allow emergency vehicles onto the island. Now, merely 10 weeks after our state's worst storm, you see a permanent Route 35 already being rebuilt. That's what an effective government can do. That's what a determined people can do. And that is how and where we will lead New Jersey in the months and years ahead. There's no question that Sandy hit us hard, but there's also no question that we're fighting back with everything we've got. Sandy took a toll on New Jersey's economy. Just when we were coming back from the national recession, Sandy disrupted our economic life. Cars weren't bought, homes weren't sold, and factories couldn't produce. From those things, we can catch up, and we are catching up. Make no mistake, as common sense would tell you, Sandy hurt New Jersey's economy. Now, some losses we'll never get back. Electric power that wasn't produced, visitors who didn't come to our casinos or to our downtown centers. In all, Sandy cost us over 8,000 jobs just in the month of November, mostly in the leisure and hospitality industries. But we were relatively fortunate. Louisiana lost 127,000 jobs after Hurricane Katrina. Now, Sandy may have stalled New Jersey's economy, but there is plenty of evidence that New Jerseyans have not let it stop our turnaround. The direction is now clear. And here's some of the latest economic news. Unemployment is coming down. And 2011 was our best private sector job growth year in 11 years, and 2012 is positive as well. Personal income set a record high in New Jersey for the 7th quarter in a row. Gross income tax receipts are exceeding the administration's projections for this fiscal year prior to Sandy. Sales of new homes are up. Consumer spending is up. Industrial production is up. Since I took this office, participation in New Jersey's labor force is higher than the nation, and the number of people employed has grown as well. That means that more people have the confidence to be out looking for jobs, and more people actually have jobs. In total, we've added nearly 75,000 private sector jobs in New Jersey since we took office in January 2010. Now, I mention the words private sector advisedly, because we have not grown government. Quite the contrary. We've gotten our house in order by keeping our promise to reduce the size of government. In the last 3 years, we have cut more than 20,000 government jobs. In 2012, we had fewer state government employees than at any time since Governor Whitman left office in January of 2001. We promised to reduce the size of government, and we have delivered. We've held the line on taxes. We've also held the line on spending. And we've made New Jersey a more attractive place in which to grow a business, to grow jobs, and to raise a family. Now, this legislature knows the history. You know it well. In fiscal year 2010, we faced a $2 billion budget deficit, with only 5.5 months left in the fiscal year when we took office. We cut over 200 programs and balanced the budget with no new taxes. In fiscal year 2011, the picture was even worse, a projected $11 billion deficit on a budget of $29 billion. In percentage terms, the worst in America. In total, we cut 832 programs. Each department of government was reduced. An 8% cut in spending, in real dollars spent, not against some phony baseline. And with this legislature's help, again, we balanced the budget without raising taxes. Now, because we had made the tough choices before, last year's budget was a bit easier. We were able to not only balance the budget, but to actually begin to reduce taxes by enacting the first year of job-creating small business tax cuts in New Jersey. Meanwhile, we devoted a record amount in aid to schools in New Jersey. And in the budget which governs the current year, Even with growth in the national economy slowing again, we have been able to achieve balance with not only no new taxes, but with a second year of small business tax relief. And let me make this point clearly and unequivocally. Despite the challenges that Sandy presents for our economy, I will not let New Jersey go back to our old ways of wasteful spending and rising taxes. We will deal with our problems, but we will continue to do so by protecting the hard-earned money of all New Jerseyans. First and foremost, we will not turn back. Our handling of the budget is but one example of the change that I told New Jersey had arrived with our inauguration. I've come to this chamber in the years since that day, urging us to do the big things to transform our state, to make the tough decisions we had avoided for far too long. We asked this in the context of a state where only 29% of our citizens felt the government was moving our state in the right direction in January of 2010. We asked this while the citizens of our country watched a dysfunctional, dispirited, and distrustful government in Washington bicker and battle, not against our problems, but against each other. Against that backdrop, few would have bet on us. Few would have bet on New Jersey, leading the way to restore people's belief that government could accomplish things for them. But here we are, 3 years later, and look at all of those things some called impossible in this town that we've made a reality. A real 2% property tax cap, interest arbitration reform, pension and health benefit reform, teacher tenure reform, higher education restructuring, resulting in Rutgers now being in the top 25 in research dollars in the nation and the newest member of the Big Ten. $1.3 billion in new capital investment in all our universities for the first time in 25 years. A groundbreaking teacher contract in Newark that finally acknowledges merit pay. 3 years ago, a national reputation for corruption and division and waste. Today, a national model for reform and bipartisanship and leadership. That is today's New Jersey. Now, so let's review this new reality specifically to remind our constituents and ourselves how far we have come and to resolve to never, ever return to the old dark days of our past in this town. 4 years, 4 balanced budgets, no new taxes, new tax relief to create nearly 75,000 new private sector jobs, a far different picture from the prior 8 years, which saw 115 increases in taxes and fees. It hasn't been easy, but we have done it together. And the people of New Jersey are better off for it. The story's the same on property taxes, and maybe even better. They'd increased 70% in the prior 10 years, the most in the nation. Together, we enacted a 2% per year cap on growth and the interest arbitration reform that was needed to make that cap work. Many said it wouldn't work, but the record now tells a different story. Last year, property taxes in New Jersey grew by only 1.7%, the lowest rise in over 2 decades. And our pension system, which was on a path to insolvency, is now on much more sound footing. With your help, we tackled the problem head on, modestly raising the retirement age, reducing incentives for early retirement, suspending COLAs until the plans are 80% funded, and yes, asking for something slightly closer to market in terms of employee contributions. In total, The pension and health benefits reform package that you passed will save taxpayers over $120 billion over the next 30 years. And just as importantly, though, it will help make sure the pension is actually there when our public employee and school teachers retire. And believe me, other states have noticed. This reform is becoming a model for America. When we combine this needed discipline on spending and taxes with responsibility in addressing our long-term liabilities, with pro-growth actions on the regulatory side, we make New Jersey a better place to do business. The combination of policies that are not hostile to business, an environment which actually welcomes new businesses and new jobs, is working. It is clear. In a competitive world, policies matter because companies have choices. Job creators have choices. And that is why our work is far from done. That's why a top priority must be to continue New Jersey's record of excellence in education and to fix problems where we are failing. In higher education, the task force led with skill by former Governor Tom Kean has helped us develop the strategy for making New Jersey's institutions more competitive. We need to turn New Jersey's universities, including Rutgers, from good to great. We all know if we do this, it will help us keep more talented New Jersey students in New Jersey and will strengthen the link between higher education and high-quality jobs. At the heart of these reforms, of course, is the plan to make sure that New Jersey's critically important medical and health sciences institutions remain world-class. By merging Rutgers and UMDNJ in the north and Rowan and UMDNJ's campus in Stratford in the south, we will enhance 3 established hubs of educational excellence in North, South, and Central New Jersey. And we will bring Rutgers and New Jersey medical education into the 21st century. I thank you for passing this plan, and I was proud to sign it into law this summer in Camden. In K-12 education, now, we've made great strides, but there's much more to be done. Who would have thought just 3 years ago, in the face of entrenched resistance, that I could stand here and congratulate us today for the following: ensuring accountability by passing the first major reform of tenure in 100 years, establishing performance-based pay in Newark through hard-nosed collective bargaining so that we can reward and retain the very best teachers in a city where we need them the most, implementing interdistrict school choice, which has tripled its enrollment in the last 3 years and will grow to 6,000 students next year, growing the number of charter schools to a record 86 in New Jersey, signing the Urban Hope Act to turn failing schools into Renaissance schools in Newark and Trenton and Camden, and finally, investing the largest amount of state aid to education in New Jersey history, $8.9 billion in this year's budget, over $1 billion higher than in fiscal year 2011. See, in New Jersey, we have combined more funding with needed reform. Both money and reform of our schools are essential, but neither alone is sufficient. In New Jersey, we're leading the way for the nation by providing both reform and funding. As we assess the state of our state this afternoon, we should be proud of our record, The state is stronger today than it has been in years. We are recovering and growing. We are not declining and descending. We are working together, not just as a people, and digging out from Sandy and rebuilding our economy. Now, we're working together here in Trenton, in this chamber. Now, we've had our fights, and we have stuck to our principles. But we have established a governing model for America that shows that even with heartfelt beliefs, bipartisan compromise is possible, achievement is the result, and progress for our people is the payoff. So, I want to thank Senate President Steve Sweeney, Assembly Speaker Sheila Oliver, leaders Tom Kean and John Bramnick, for your hard work, for your frankness when we disagree, and for your willingness to come together on the truly important issues, on the big things. We have served the people of New Jersey well, and I thank you. since we have some of the guys here already who I know agree with this, maybe the folks in Washington in both parties could learn something from our record here in New Jersey. Let me tell you, our citizens certainly have. Now, 61% of them believe our state is moving in the right direction, more than double the amount that believed it on that cold day in January 3 years ago. Now, make no mistake, our work is far from finished. But rebuilding the homes and the infrastructure damaged and destroyed by Sandy is the next big challenge, and it will take years. We will need to spend our funds wisely and efficiently, and we will. We will need to cooperate with each other, and I trust we will. We will need to learn the lessons from the past disasters and listen to each other. The good news is this: we already know that strong leadership and bipartisan cooperation make all these things possible. Our work over the last 3 years proves that beyond argument. Now, having worked to tackle our most urgent legacy problems, having faced up to and corrected some poor decisions from the past, we now have more freedom to chart a course of excellence for our future. So as we begin this legislative year, we can now look ahead from Sandy, ahead from the national recession, to a brighter day for New Jersey. The author Bern Williams once said, "Man never made any material as resilient as the human spirit." For all I've seen and experienced as your governor in this extraordinary year, though, one experience will be indelibly etched in my memory. Her name is Ginger. As I walked around the parking lot of the fire department in Port Monmouth, in one of the days soon after Sandy had laid waste to so much of our state, I saw so many of the scenes that I had come to expect in the aftermath of this storm. Neighbors helping neighbors, food being prepared for the hungry, first responders helping the homeless. And then I met 9-year-old Ginger. Having a 9-year-old girl myself, her height and her manner of speaking was immediately familiar and evocative. Having confronted so many crying and distraught adults, at that point I felt ready to deal with anything. Then Ginger looked at me, and she began to cry, and she told me she was scared. She told me she had lost everything. She told me she had lost her home and all her belongings, and she asked me to help her. Well, as my eyes filled with tears, I took a deep breath. I thought, what would I say to Bridget if she said the same thing to me? If she had the same look in her eyes, if she had the same tears running down her face? So I looked at Ginger and I asked her where her mom was. And she pointed right behind her. And I asked her if her dad was okay. And she told me she was. So I put my hands on Ginger's shoulders and I told her, you haven't lost your home. You just lost a house. A house we can replace. Your home is with your mom and dad. Then I hugged her and I told her not to cry anymore, that the adults are in charge now. There was nothing to be afraid of anymore. Now, Ginger's here today. We've kept in touch. She has her own cell phone. And she gave me the number. And Ginger, I want to thank you for giving voice to New Jersey's children during Sandy and helping to create a memory of humanity in a sea of despair. You are a special, special little girl. Thank you for coming today. In this year ahead, let us prove the truth of the words I spoke to Ginger that day. Let us put aside destructive politics in an election year. Let's put aside accusations and false charges for purely political advantage. Let's work together to honor the memories of those lost in Sandy. Let's put the needs of our most victimized citizens ahead of the partisan politics of the day. Let's demonstrate once again the resilience of New Jersey's spirit. And let us continue what we've started together, rebuilding from Sandy with pride and determination, restoring our economy to growth and prosperity after a decade of decline and high taxes, and reclaiming the promise of New Jersey for future generations, presenting to our children renewed excellence in our schools, a sound and balanced budget, and a vibrant economy with jobs for those willing to work hard. That is our mission: to hurdle barriers no matter how high, to fight the elements of doubt or disaster, and to leave this place, to leave it better than we found it. Let us prove once and for all that what I said to Ginger is undeniably true. The adults are in charge. Let's accomplish the mission of rebuilding our battered state and restoring the hope and the faith and the trust of our people that government can work in a bipartisan way to restore our great way of life for all New Jerseyans. In the year ahead, I look forward to working with all of you on that most important mission of all. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless the great state of New Jersey.